Hello viewers, and welcome to the second of my recent series of retro gaming videos. I'm going to be going through some different titles from my collection over the coming weeks. Some going to be general gaming videos on my general gaming channel, some will be racing videos here. And here today we've got another PS1 game, not one that many of you may know, called Motorhead. There it is, Motorhead on the PS1. Got this back in 1998. Gremlin, you'll have seen there on the startup. Were publishing some great titles at the time, right from the launch, games I enjoyed a great deal, Actua Soccer, Loaded, and here we see the intro to Motorhead, and the graphics in the game are just like this, nice and solid with detailed environments. I wish this was still back in the time when pre-rendered intros looked, really impressive, and then you still get to the game. Not as bad as Mega CD era, I might point out. But you get to the game and suddenly it's not quite as good. So here we see the city environment, lots of intense racing action. All the action. So Motorhead then, there we are, over the finishing line. Now this game, what I'll talk about as it plays through here and we finish the intro. High velocity entertainment. So start menu. First thing we'll do is we'll look at the options. So I go across to the options here. Now do you see there the opponents 50 frames per second, I think that is there. We always called it 60 frames at the time. I mean, it was sold based on it running at 60 frames per second, and it was one of the first driving games. If you go up to 7 opponents, drops the frame rate by half, game looks awful. So always you'd run with a lower field of cars. I think I played this on a demo disc and then thought, I enjoyed the fact it ran at 60 frames. The 60 frames itself was a novelty. You start off with rubbish cars. The game is really hard, and you need to work your way up before you start to get the faster cars and other courses and everything else. I don't know where my memory card is for this. Memory cards, eh? Who needs those? So my memory card is tucked away somewhere, so I just went with the initial courses here. As you can see, there's a nice sort of evening glow to the game. Some pretty cool music, but the frame rate was really smooth. I'm just trying to work my way along here. Now, difficulty was really high on this game. You had to really push as hard as you can to try and win. When you brake, you're kind of you're riding the brakes, you're sort of touching the brake while you're accelerating rather than braking. If you brake, the car just slows down so quickly. There is a handbrake where you can just sort of slide the car and you get used to that, but it depends on the car you were driving as to how practical it was. But at the time, this gave a great feeling of speed, has to be said. Really nice and smooth. We weren't used to this. This was, I think Ridge Racer High Spec had been released, or the 60 frames disc had been released in Japan. Been released in Japan at this stage? No, it hadn't. No, this was actually out 6 months before that or so. So this was out first. But either way, it was nice to see a developer just try something, and I think 60 frames was such a novelty that, I think at this stage only Gran Turismo, if you completed Gran Turismo, you unlocked Japanese special stage, and I used to play that a lot. And it was really nice because it was novel, it ran at 60 frames, but there was a huge reduction on the environment. Basically nothing but the road existed and the immediate sort of barriers and walls around the road, but it was really great to play at 60 frames. I think you played that, so it was so lush. Before that they had it in Motor2 Grand Prix 2, and you'd see you had the NASCAR, the IndyCar, handled terribly. Probably we'll look at that at some stage, but running at 60 frames was always great because we had it in the arcades, and the arcades was so much better than what we had in the home. So I'm pretty much pushing as hard as I can here, trying to close the gap on the car in front, but just don't seem to have enough speed in this particular car. So ideally you do your best on this stage and then work your way up, get a better car, come back, win these races again. Some of them weren't always possible from the off. So PS1, there was a lot of decent racing titles. We're going to go through some of the ones you know and perhaps some of the ones you don't know so well. I'm sure a few of you don't know this one as well. But either way, it was solid fun, but one issue I had with the game is that it kind of felt lonely. It's a very lonely game. You know, there's no crowds, there's no people, there's no atmosphere to it. So that was the first track. I think I can see the other cars here are still all locked away at this stage, but you could see the performance on them down the bottom there. Some proper performance on the top cars. So I go with a faster car, see how this handles. I honestly couldn't remember any of this. I literally haven't played it since 1998, I think it's fair to say. And as ever, I drive in car. And this car is faster, but it drifts. So it has really sloppy handling. But you know, for its time, 60 frames, they were doing a good job running everything. I suppose in a way, what's it remind me of? It reminds me of a game on the 3DO Mega CD. It was an FMV game. I forget what it's called now. FMV racing game, but it's completely gone. It's on the tip of my tongue. But visually, it kind of reminded me of that. I couldn't remember these courses at all. You need to practice them, but as you practice them, obviously you learn your way around, and you improve on them. And I actually got really good at this game. I remember just absolute perfection that you needed to get through the whole game. It was really on the limit, I think, until you got the top cars. And even with the top cars, I remember it being super tough. Road splitting, very narrow raceways to race down, made it really tough to be competitive. These high speed sections here, but you can see I'm just not making a dent on the guys in the lead. You really need to be perfect, and this is just, and in a way that's kind of what made the game probably a bit too hard for people. You think, I'm a driving fan, what would just the average player do? They get nowhere on these games. They're just too hard, basically. But obviously this was before the time of online play, so they had to make a challenge for everyone, but I felt that, as you can see here, probably a bit tough. Saying that, I haven't altered the difficulty settings. Just looking at some of the other tracks, and you can see here, this is from the demo mode. I just let the demo run at the beginning of the game because it shows you some of the other courses, as you do. We used to do this on games years ago. If you wanted to see later levels in the game, you just let it demo and it would show you later levels, and you'd be like, wow, look at those graphics. And you can see here just different city environment. There's some sort of cool music and atmosphere to it. It's a nicely produced game in its own way. It just lacked a bit of atmosphere, a bit of oomph, and obviously the difficulty setting was a little bit on the tough side for a lot of people. And we have this sort of desert environment, which was very bland and boring. Just not a lot to it. So on the whole, it's an interesting title, but I'll be looking at a different range of games, 2D racing games, 3D racing games, and games that sort of that I've played and tried out over the years and experimented with and everything else. And I'm going to sort of share lots of that. I just want to rediscover, I think, my passion in racing games and what's brought me to this point in creating this channel. And I think it's important that with what I show on this channel, it shares my passion for what I'm doing, rather than just grinding out the new releases all the time, especially when some of the new releases are sort of underwhelming. Despite being graphically amazing, they're just lacking the sort of gameplay that inspires me personally, and I'm getting bored with some of them, churning out constant online features. I just want to play a nice core racing game. But that's it from me for now on this video. Bit of Motorhead action, and there'll be more retro action from me very soon.